Welcome everyone to Hearts of Iron 4. This is going to be a Let's Play. I've got one of my friends that's going to join me for a co-op game, even though it's truly not a cooperative game, but we're going to be playing together. This Let's Play will focus on two countries in South America, Colombia and Argentina. And my friend's going to take Argentina, I'm going to take Colombia. And what we will do from there is we will attempt to conquer all of South America, and ultimately that'll culminate in a war with Brazil. We tried it, we've tested it out with Peru and Argentina, and we had some great success until it got to, wartime with Brazil, and it wasn't exactly the prettiest, but I think it's going to be a good playthrough. There's going to be a lot of war. A lot of exciting stuff to happen. So I've got Josh here. If you want to say hey, Josh, go for it.
Hello, everybody.
So without further ado, we're playing on regular difficulty. We are using the Road to 56 mod as well as increased resources. And those are the only two mods that we're running right now. And we're going to see, ultimately, like I said, ultimate first goal is to conquer all of South America. And then if we are in a decent position to take on the United States, we will eventually work our way through Central America to Mexico, the Caribbean, and then we'll take out the United States. Hopefully we'll have some success. So we're going to go ahead and fire it up.
Yeah, last time we learned all too well how powerful Brazil can be, so
they
I'm gonna play a little smarter.
Yeah, Josh, you're right. I mean, they by the time you hit, what was it, around 1940, they've got a pretty stout air force.
Yeah, they had double our air force, way more tanks, just about everything that we didn't have, and a lot of manpower. They have a huge population, so
yeah, they do. They've got a very big population,
and they're in a daggum jungle, which just makes it that much more fun to take over.
That it does. It makes it definitely quite challenging, to say the least. All right, Josh. Well, I can ask you this question. What are the first two technologies you go for when you start off as Argentina?
I choose the... Let's actually take a look at them. The kind of the first main 1936 infantry weapon upgrade. I want to start producing those as fast as possible, and that will be what my armies use for our wars against Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay. And then I also start working on the light tanks, because it takes me a few just to get to the ones that I'll start using. So I start that, and as soon as I get another research slot available, I start knocking down the industrial tree. So it's kind of what I start focusing on.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of government does Argentina start off with?
I believe it's mostly undecided. Democratic, communist, and fascist are kind of equally spread. So you can kind of head towards whatever path you want to. It does take a little while, so it's important to get started on it early.
I hear you. Well, let me know when you're ready to kick it into full speed, and we'll go ahead and do that.
Absolutely. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
it would be good to note that we are relatively new to the game, so I guess it'd be good for our listeners to kind of know that, and maybe they can learn with us.
Yeah, we are definitely new to the game. But we're not inept, which is a good thing too. At least we're not inept most of the time. Let me rephrase that. I have my moments where I am relatively inept, but it doesn't permeate through most of my life.
We do like history, especially this time period, so this was a new step for us. We've played paired.
It really was a no-brainer choosing to pick this game. I mean, we've seen several other Let's Plays where people were actually playing campaigns. Probably the one that hooked me on it was watching a guy play through as Spain, and he basically took the side of the Republicans and actually was able to beat back the Nationalists, which, generally speaking, in every playthrough that I've seen, Franco and his Nationalist forces end up winning. So it really hooked me for it. But we've also seen some pretty funny videos that are made with AI only battles, and those provide an immense amount of humor for Josh and myself. So but it is a big step for us, because I would say on the grand scheme of strategy games, we probably have defaulted to playing Civilization and its various reiterations more so than anything.
Yeah, we're pretty big.
Did that in World of Warcraft, so
it's true.
It's a completely different genre.
It's a long time ago too.
Yeah, that has been a long time. I have not had a WoW account in many years. So, Josh, I think my first target is going to be Ecuador. They seem to be a pretty easy pushover.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you were going to go Venezuela or Ecuador first.
I think I'm actually going to save Venezuela for last. I'm going to go Ecuador and then take on Peru. And if I can get a hold of Peru, I think Bolivia makes sense just because La Paz is so close.
It's usually pretty easy for me to take Uruguay and Chile early. And Bolivia is a good. I mean, I have bonuses to take Bolivia too. So
yeah, I probably need to look at this national focus tree a little bit.
One of the things that intrigued us about this game is just I've played a lot of World War II games, and this is the first one that you can really kind of explore what else was going on in the world at this time period, and create your own kind of scenarios like we are today, playing in South America instead of picking a big power like the U.S. or Germany, Soviet Union, etc.
Yeah, and I've done a couple of Let's Plays, or several of them are in the works with some of the more minor powers, and so this is actually my first time to play this game with a tailored focus tree. Every nation that I've taken so far has kind of had the generic stock focus tree that it's not bland, but it is kind of bland.
Speaking of focus trees, for people that might want to play Argentina, which I do recommend, it's a good little challenge starting country. There is a focus called Law 11,729. Never take it. It's the consumer goods factory is 15%. Does not mean it's going to put the consumer goods factories at 15%. It will add 15%, and that's devastating. And the one below it again will add 10% as well. The bump to population is nice, but it's just not worth it. There's many ways to increase your population. Very few ways to limit your consumer goods. So
yeah, I think what Josh is really telling you is that's a direct way to wreck your economy.
Speaking from experience, I was actually trying to think about how it could be useful. I'm not sure. I mean, there's even continuous focus trees now that will allow you to increase your population per month. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't see um, an actual need for those. So please stay away um, if you want to have a good economy.
Yeah, and I would second that. You really, initially, you at least I feel sometimes the pressure or the notion that I need to build weapons, but your civilian factories do allow you to build infrastructure, and that's where you're going to build anti-aircraft guns. You're going to be able to build radar, build your roads, additional factories, and running the road to 56. If you go down some of the techs that you can choose, it'll give you the ability to build steel mills and aluminum mills, and then of course synthetic oil factories. And so that stuff really does add up in the long run, and we kind of learned that the hard way last time.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Steel is the most important resource early in the game.
Oh yeah, just about everything that you're trying to produce requires it, at least for your infantry, in some form or another.
And that's why Chile is so intriguing, because they have a nice little deposit of it. So it's a big thing to take early. I guess we can talk about some of the mods that we're using. The increased resource mod, because we like playing smaller countries, more obscure countries, it kind of balances out the resources across the map instead of concentrating on them in Europe. So kind of gives the smaller countries a fighting chance and makes them not have to travel across the ocean just to get some steel and some rubber and etc. Early strategy for Argentina found that, first of all, just getting out of the depression is incredibly important. So, law of economic depression is an important first one. But after that, becoming fascist or communist is very, very helpful, because it allows you to get off the civilian economy, which has negative 30% debuffs to civilian and military factories. And being able to move to partial mobilization is not only does it lower your consumer goods, but then takes those debuffs and adds buffs to military factory construction speed, which is what you're doing a lot of in the early game. So being able to make that jump as early as possible is a big help.
Yeah, and I wish I could provide a little more commentary on Colombia. Unfortunately, this is my first playthrough with them. I could give you plenty on Peru or Bolivia, but I have a feeling that I think that I want to take Colombia fascist. They have a set focus to do so. But in my initial start, I'm a big fan of trying to get the economy up and running, because I do realize it's going to take some time to get the government in place to be fascist, so I can have a little more ease of declaring war. And so that's kind of where I'm working down. I just finished electromechanical engineering, and we're right now working on basic machine tools and then construction 1. And then after that, we'll be able to kind of further diversify that and begin to work on some of the military tech that we need to get everybody up to speed.
Because we're taking smaller countries, it is going to be slow going as we establish an economy and establish infrastructure. So it does take some time to get the ball rolling.
Oh, it most definitely does. That's the one thing that I've noticed when you do these playthroughs with these minor powers or smaller countries, is your first year, sometimes even 2 years, it's very dull. You're primarily, like Josh said, building infrastructure, building your army, trying to get to a point where you can actually successfully take some territory or make some gains, and it's no small task. And once again, as he touched on it earlier, South America is really unique in their geography. You got a lot of jungle, you get a little bit of desert, you got a lot of mountains, and because of the terrain and because of just how developed or undeveloped these nations are, their infrastructure isn't exactly great. So troop movement, especially when you're fighting Brazil in the Amazon, is terrible.
Yeah, Brazil's tough because you're either fighting in the Amazon or you're fighting in mountains and jungle, in the south too. So it is it would be really helpful to have a navy, but their navy's much stronger than ours, and it does take some time to build one up. So
mm-hmm.
it was a grind and something that you need to be very prepared for.
Oh yeah, and to kind of piggyback on that, I'll give you an example. Even if you are in Brazil and you're getting some gains in the Amazon, and you're able to push back and repel and advance against enemy divisions, it'll take you close to a month to move from one province or territory to another. And if Brazil, if the AI is controlling them correctly and they're doing their troop movements right, a lot of times you may beat back a handful of divisions only to find out that you're 5 days away from moving, and they've moved more divisions in there. So it definitely is. The couple of nights ago when we were playing this, it was some give and take, and they're the beast. They're the bear on this continent. They have, as Josh pointed out, they have a huge population, and they are able to mobilize and use it effectively, even when they were fighting, two powers that controlled the rest of South America. They proved to be quite the opponent. I know that when we ended that game, I want to say that, what was it, almost 2 million men lost on both sides? Is that about right?
It was pretty close to that. So, we had some pretty big blunders, which I can mention later, but on my side, with supply,
it was hilarious. I'd say hilarious. It was also shockingly terrifying, because I looked up and all of a sudden, Josh has gone from, tens of thousands of losses to 150, and I feel like I blinked my eyes, and then it was up to like 350, and I thought, holy cow, he's going to capitulate.
didn't capitulate though.
But in his defense, he didn't.
New infantry weapons. Headed over to the industrial and engineering pathways now. Engineering, it's got some really, really good stuff. Some early research bonuses, always helpful. And then encryption, decryption is actually extremely useful in battles. Not to be
I say I'm going to attack Ecuador first. I've got to actually become fascist first, which means I need to pick up the fascist demagogue. Hopefully he can expedite that process. If not, the one thing that you'll see, and I'll go ahead and pull it up from the focus tree for Colombia, is that they actually do have war with Peru, and it definitely is tailored towards that. So we'll see how this goes. Looking at the rest of the world, it looks like Ethiopia will probably capitulate relatively quickly. It looks like Italy's making pretty swift work of them.
Speaking of a tough start,
You what now?
Speaking of a tough start, you can take Ethiopia and succeed, just defend against Italy. That would be a game in and of itself. Short game, but
no doubt.
Very difficult. Very difficult.
My gut tells me we're going to get a Spanish Civil War at some point.
Oh, that's a good question. So what are our settings? Did you put it on historical focus?
Yeah, historical focuses are on. We're playing regular, and apparently you can't choose Iron Man in multiplayer, but we're still going to treat it like Iron Man. You know, we're not going to back up when one of us does inevitably does something stupid. It'll probably be me, but you know, we're gonna.
It's definitely your turn.
True as we can.
Important note, though, because you did historical focus, that means the United States will take their Pax Americana focus early, which means they will guarantee the independence of all the different countries in South America, which makes taking them over a little bit interesting because we've yet to see them intervene so far in our previous playthroughs, but it can always happen. And that would be a major wrench.
It most definitely can. I mean, last night we saw it towards the end of kind of doing our little test run with Peru and Argentina, that they basically took whatever focus they take that triggers their backlash against fascism. So, if that were to happen earlier rather than later, we really could probably encounter a scenario where we could be in trouble.
Yep, could be an early exit, that's for sure.
Oh, it definitely could be. I hope it's not, but you never know. You always see interesting things out of this game. Like I was playing through one, just messing around. I guess maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, and like the Spanish Civil War didn't get kicked off until the latter part of 1937, which I thought was relatively late.
One of the things I'm going to try out this game is I've never actually made a full tank division. My mobile divisions have always been artillery or a combination of artillery and mobile infantry, just because what we've seen in a majority of our playthroughs so far is just a lot of infantry battles, and in this game you have soft attack and hard attack, and soft attack is for infantry, hard attack is for machines like tanks, artillery, etc. And artillery has one of the best soft attack stats in the game, so usually I try to get several of those and some infantry to support them. But we did run into some tanks against Brazil, so I'm going to dabble in getting some medium tank divisions this time around.
Yeah, that, and another thing that I think would be helpful, and if my economy's there, definitely would make sense, is to maybe dump some stuff into anti-tank artillery. Because Brazil's tanks were no joke, I'll tell you that. They weren't playing around.
No, and they were very sneaky with using them. I was very impressed with the AI. They used them to encircle my divisions that had low organization, and effectively eliminated, 16, 17 of my divisions, which was a major reason not going well. Yeah.
And no bueno whatsoever. And I guess another thing, and just to kind of talk about the format, these will be a little longer episodes than what I have been posting. We're going to shoot for around an hour per episode, and we'll make a cut. We may go a little over or a little under, depending on what's going on. But in other news, the Spanish Civil War finally did break out. As I've said before, just about every playthrough that I've seen, it culminates with nationalist Spain whipping up on Republican Spain. And I'm still waiting one day to see a playthrough where the Republicans actually come through and they're able to beat back Franco, but I just don't think that that'll ever happen. And I think the core of it, I was listening to some guys talk about it and talk about Spain in and of itself, and historically speaking, the nationalists just had much better trained troops and they had better trained commanders than Republican Spain. And this game, when you really factor that into the equation, they've done a really good job of making that so. I mean, I've got it hovered over Spain right now, and you can see that the nationalists are getting ready to take over and take out Bilboa. So. But I did complete, well, I didn't complete anything, but I now have enough political power to get that fascist demagogue, whose name is Julio Valdez. And we're going to say that the higher-ups may harbor some crazy feelings.
Do you do exercises for your armies?
I have not dabbled in that. I probably need to.
I found it to be pretty vital early on, because army experience is what you use to be able to redesign your divisions. And the divisions, I don't know about Colombia, but ones that Argentina have are pretty poorly designed. It's not the worst that I've seen, but I do like to get a couple artillery with my infantry divisions, and they don't have any support bonuses to start with, and all that takes experience to design and exercising.
Anytime you want to add any sort of component, add troops, add support functions, you have to have experience. And like Josh said, you can do exercises with your troops, which, correct me if I'm wrong, if they overextend themselves, they begin to face attrition.
They do, but I've never seen that actually. That just means that they would perform poorly in battle if they were to be attacked. But usually it takes just a few days for that to go away. I just stop it before war, obviously.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And then the other solution, minus like actually fighting in a war to get that necessary experience, is if you've got excess political power early on, which the reality of the situation is you probably won't, but if you do encounter it, you can pick up, in most countries, a military theorist that's focused on the army, and you'll get daily experience gain because of that. And you can definitely use that to bank experience points, and it's something that, I want to say it's like 0.5 experience per month. Not that that's a lot, but, over time it eventually adds up.
Yeah, I definitely prioritize research early. There's just so many things to research in this game, and always, the most difficult decisions that I experience every game are choosing what to research and what not to research. There's, having a good air force, having a good navy, having good tanks, having good artillery, having good infantry. You can't have it all at once, and there has to be some sequence. And so getting up to 5 research slots, which Argentina can do, is very important. And then always prioritize the engineering tree for the research bonuses that it grants as well. So That's what I've been clicking. I know they can't see what I'm doing, but that's kind of what I've been mainly focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly building up my divisions. That takes time. You have to have enough infantry supplies to even get that started. So, and I'm not sure about this, but apparently, and I'm sure you can adjust this, the initial guns that you make kind of fill up your reinforcements stock first before being given to your divisions, which does make things difficult early on. I'm not sure if I would want to change that or not, but I know you can set priority, but I'm not sure if that actually has a real effect or not. So someone else can play around with that and tell us, but something to consider.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yes.
What was the first government law or leader that you chose? With your power.
So the first one that I did was pick up what they call the Paz de Rio, which improves your industrial research time. I think that also has to do with maybe one of the national focuses. And then the second gentleman I picked up was the fascist demagogue.
Did you select something on your focus tree that gave you some political power? Because
yes, yeah. Now that's on the Colombian focus tree, there is really a focus that's called the political effort, and that kind of opens up the overall political sphere, and that gives you plus 120 political power.
Right. Okay. Well, who's this plug-in?
Oh, and it looks like
difficulty.
Do what now?
May have technical difficulty.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So I'm gonna save the game and see if I can't re-invite you.
Not sure if our listeners know this, but apparently power is important to running a computer.
I could see that.
Thought I was plugged in, but that was not the case.
I could see that.
But
I wonder if that's what caused you to get booted.
Oh yeah.
All right. So let's do this. Let's open the game.
It's full of blunders tonight.
Yeah. You ought to tell them about what happened to your computer.
That's a sore subject right now. Now I have a great computer that I built that worked perfectly for a year. And the past week I've had 2 occurrences of it not wanting to boot, and done every CMOS reset It's almost probably 3 times as much expensive as my computer, but almost as nice.
Yeah, we'll throw a shameless plug in there. If you were like us and completely stupid, and you were buying laptops or pre-made desktops, you were throwing your money away. Do yourself a favor and do as much research as you have to, watch as many YouTube videos as you can, but learn to build your own desktop. You will not only save yourself money, but you will be able to build a computer that is like leaps and bounds better than anything you will ever have. You can put the components in that you want it. You can build it to your own specifications. And then if you get really tech savvy, and it's not difficult, Josh can testify to this, but you can overclock it, and you can have a computer that you can build for hundreds of dollars cheaper than what you could buy, that outperforms that stock computer that, even though it's advertised for gaming, not so much. But yeah, we did that last year. Each of us built a computer. He went with an Intel processor. I went with an AMD, but we've both been very impressed with what we've done so far.
Please. I'm sure you put the same one in there.
Yeah, it should be the same one. If not, I'll recreate it. Just chalk it up to more blunders.
That seemed to work. I'm sure I just typed. Nope, didn't work.
Okay.
So you typed something wrong.
Let me restart this. Then. I wonder if I had caps locks on. Ooh, my keyboard does not light up. All right, let me send you an invite.
Oh, never mind. I guess the initial worked, so I think after.
Did you get that one?
Did.
Oh man.
Wait, this is at the very beginning.
Huh. Yeah, that is crap. Let me check something out. Golly. Like I said, I knew I was going to screw up tonight, so. Probably because I didn't load the save. God, I'm an idiot. Gosh. Well, if I'm this incompetent when it comes to like fighting a war, I'm going to declare war on Ecuador and invade Venezuela. All right.
There we go.
Okay, we can get back up and running. Hot dog. Did y'all get any rain today up there?
We get rain up here every day. I think I'm in all seriousness. I think it's rained every single day for the past 2 to 3 weeks.
we got some. Right as I got home tonight, like I had to sprint inside. It was pouring. All right, so we're gonna start this back up.
Oh, we're very close to where we were.
So Uruguay is your first target.
Yep. They're pretty easy to take over.
Oh yeah.
They've actually got, they've got 3 naval bases and some decent factory opportunities. The Argentina's just got a little bit more. Archie's actually not very bad off when it comes to factories to start with. They've got a little bit of a economic edge over the Chiles, the Uruguays, the Paraguays, the Bolivias. Obviously not against Brazil. Very puny compared to Brazil's initial start.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I like about Colombia's focus tree is it definitely has the opportunity to get some quick industrial and infrastructure gains. And like I just finished one that basically gives me 2 additional civilian factories, 2 building slots, and on top of that, 2 infrastructure. So that's pretty big. But the one downside that I see is, right, initially they start off with 1 military factory. It's not pretty. But the good news is that the communist faction is growing. Not the communist, the fascist. And they start off as a majority democracy with a small fascist fraction, a more moderate-sized communist percent of their population. And then you have one that is called the Conservador, which is the non-aligned faction.
I can't wait to just absolutely shellac Brazil this time. I got some serious revenge feelings for them.
Yeah, it may take us a couple of episodes to get there, but I'm ready to fight that war. I feel like what I've noticed with some of the Let's Plays that I've done so far is when you actually get into war, it gets a lot more entertaining when it comes from being able to talk about it, but also it produces some fun situations and some unique outcomes.
Wow, I just saw Venezuela's resource situation. Holy mackerel, they've got a ton of resources.
Oh yeah, realistically speaking, they're the most resource-rich country in South America.
Other than Brazil.
Brazil's got a lot of trees.
Apparently a lot of
piranhas. I mean, we can't downplay the whole piranha aspect of the whole thing.
They are the best. Wow, look at that. That's a ton of oil. It's enough oil to power an entire superpower.
Well, I believe that they have the most oil in North and South America in real life. You may want to fact check me on that, but I believe that to be true.
Other than Texas. Texas got a little bit of a size advantage.
Yeah. Good old Texas.
Uruguay, on the other hand, has a whopping 2 steel and 2 oil.
I'll tell you, one of the things that is nice when you take over Ecuador is you do get access to 2 oil and 12 rubber.
Yeah, the rubber's not
Peru provides you with 18 oil. Okay. And they do have some steel and tungsten. And Bolivia, if I remember correctly, has a ton of tungsten in the Atacama Desert. So that is one of the good things when you are playing is some of these minor or lesser powers in South America. When you do actually conquer other nations, you can get a hold of some resources that you need desperately, relatively quickly.
Drew, I just learned something that I didn't know.
What would that be?
Infrastructure provides a multiplier to your factory building speed.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that makes sense, but...
Yeah, I could see how roads and railroads and all that other good stuff that's considered infrastructure could help you build things faster. Unless you're in the jungle, which that makes no sense. Because the jungle is the devil.
You need to make a cut.
Let's see. We got about 9 minutes left till we need to make a cut. So we'll let that play out and then make a cut unless you're in the middle of a war, and then we'll try to let that subside a little bit.
I won't beat them. I'm slowly gaining fascist support in my country, so switching over to fascism will allow you to declare war earlier in this game, so that's important.
Yeah. If you're, I would tell anyone who's starting off, if your primary goal is to fight a war, go fascist. If you remain a democracy, you're going to have a very difficult time declaring war on other nations until world tension hits 100%. Now you'll get there, and it definitely gives you time to build up and, really, in some countries' cases, like completely modernize them. But if you're looking to expand aggressively through war and acquire what you want through war, fascism, in my experience, is the way to go. We haven't tested communism out yet, and maybe in the next Let's Play, where we do this together, we can take two countries and turn them into communist countries, join the Comintern, and have a little fun doing that. But so far, we've pretty much stuck to fascism.
That might be good for our little Africa run. So we could eventually join the Allies and try to push back the Italians in northern Africa.
Yeah, that definitely. I think that could work. I think it'd be fun.
It's tough early, when we're playing these smaller, disadvantaged countries. You really need more land, more factory producing states as early as you can to really build an infrastructure that can compete with a larger country. So it's almost you really couldn't go democratic with any small country. Now something like Brazil that might be big enough to be able to pull that off, but nothing like what we're working with.
Yeah, Brazil could. I think Brazil definitely could pull it off, and Brazil would probably benefit if some of their neighbors went communist or fascist, and they do have the benefit that Paraguay starts off fascist or communist. Excuse me. Bolivia starts off completely non-aligned. I believe Peru is fascist. Chile is democratic. Argentina, you start off primarily non-aligned, correct?
Correct.
You got democratic, and then Venezuela is kind of in a unique situation as they're fascist. So, I guess if you're going for South America and you wanted to be set up to immediately go to war, you could take Venezuela. They've got the resources, and they've got the government type that would let you immediately dive into that. Whereas with most of the other countries, with the exception of, really kind of Venezuela, Peru, and Paraguay, they're either not aligned, meaning that they don't have any leaning towards fascism, any democratic leanings or any communist leanings, and you kind of have to lay the groundwork to get your government in place based on what you want to do, which it takes time. As you've seen from really this first episode, it's almost the end of 1936, and while we've done some pretty cool things, it's still slow. That's the best way I know how to put it.
Yeah, obviously if you're playing by yourself, you can get through this pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, you can put it on 4 or 5 times speed and easily wind up in 1937, 1938. Or if you get to a point where you're efficient enough when you're playing at faster speeds, you can conquer stuff that's going to be easy to conquer relatively quickly, and then slow it down for a war with, let's say, the big boy.
Yeah, I wouldn't let the slow start scare anybody from a smaller country. The challenge is very interesting, and it's a part of history that's, again, different than any other game I've ever played. So,
yeah, that really is the draw. When we really looked into this, and the sky's the limit. You can choose any country that you want to. With regards to who you want to play. Now, some of them are, clearly you have national focus trees in the vanilla game that are tailored for certain countries, and every other country gets like this stock vanilla tree. But Josh and I were talking about this when we were debating about buying it. The modding community for this game is one of the best that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just absolutely unbelievable. And it's amazing because you can buy the vanilla game, and with the mods that exist, you don't really have to buy the expansions. Now, if you're just a diehard junkie and you want to support Paradox, I'd tell you buy the expansions. But if you're just looking to spend $40 on a game and have mods that are in place that give you expanded focus trees for countries, the modding community has done. I have to think it may be the best job out of any mod community that I've ever played associated with the game. So, highly recommend if you like history, if you're fascinated by World War II, if you like strategy games, definitely worth the purchase.
I mean, just to expand upon what he's saying, the modding community really has outperformed the DLC options. I mean, they've basically created extremely extensive DLC quality extensions to this game. So,
oh yeah, we're playing the Road to 56, and the Road to 56 introduces expanded focus trees for, 20 plus countries that you don't even get in the DLC. I mean, and then there's another one that we've looked at that pretty much decolonizes Africa and introduces a bunch of African nations, which makes, Africa, I'm going to zoom over to it, it makes it a little more viable than you basically got, okay, let's see, South Africa, Liberia, and
Belgian Congo.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at, Belgian Congo and then initially Ethiopia, but they get taken out pretty quickly.
Yeah, Africa's not viable to really play unless you decolonize it, because even taking South Africa, which is a tough start, anybody you're going to be picking on is a major power.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're either going to find yourself at war with the Allies or the Axis, or, I mean, I guess you could take South Africa looking at this, and Portugal could be a target for you, but they're not an easy pick-off, because you would have to then invade, basically what becomes, oh God, this is that's me, Mozambique and I'm blanking on this country in real life. But even then, I mean, just based on how victory conditions work, you would have to build a navy and sell and take over Lisbon. And I'm not sure South Africa's really postured initially to do that. I mean, it could. I mean, if you want to be in a constant state of war, I mean, that's one way to do it. Not sure how fun that would be, but that is one option. All right, well, we have hit the hour mark. Josh, are you kind of in a position where we can cut it?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you like it, like it, subscribe it. We're gonna keep doing episodes like this. Like I said, hopefully, if everything goes as planned, we will conquer most of South America and then take on Brazil. And then if we are in a position to further advance north, we will do that. Leave a comment if there's a co-op game that you'd like to see with two nations in a relatively similar geographic region. Let us know. But thank you for joining in.